right, performers and achievers, welcome to Performers and Achievers Daily with me, Raj Gavurla. And in today's episode, do you have a positive leadership environment and culture? Do you have a positive leadership environment and culture? Each person is in leadership. Sure, in most organizations, businesses, there's a owner, there's maybe founder, more than one founder, there are investors, there are executives, managers, directors, managers, area directors, regional directors. There's all kinds of people, supervisors, there are line managers, there's line supervisors, there are the employees, there are associates, there are partners, there are so many different titles. However, here's what's to keep in mind is that each person, each individual is in leadership. That's right. Each one is in leadership. So my original question was, do you have a positive leadership environment and culture? Positive leadership environment and culture. So in other words, are you making it difficult for people because you do not have good teamwork communication for whatever reason? And therefore it's challenging because the words aren't being used, they're not congruent. And you either are challenged or have difficulty with empathizing or being able to actually have good teamwork communication for various reasons. A lot of them are assumptions or perceived ways of approaching things. And so that's really, really important that it's positive, the positive part. Now, sure, does that mean that if something is not right or is wrong, well, there's a way to address it. And the reality is that's what good teamwork communication is to be able to address that. And this takes a lot of skillful inspiration, skillful motivation. And I use the word skillful because, again, there are ways to do it. And the way you do it is very important. It's just like when you, let's say, start a project or an endeavor, you establish good teamwork communication. How's that communication going to flow? How is the priorities being distributed, the tasks being distributed? Is it you do your part, I do my part, and then we come together? Well, that's a transaction. That's not a solution. So all the people involved, to some extent, need to talk about it so that they can create a solution. Now, does that mean that each person in, let's say, a project or an initiative or a priority that has, let's say, 5 people, 10 people, 15 people, 20 people, 30 people, that each one of them need to talk to each other? No, it does not mean that. However, I think you get the point. The second is leadership. Yes, you're in leadership. You are in leadership. Because when you leave your place of business, your workplace, your job, is your work, is your business. Well, you're in leadership there, each one of you, and you're in leadership when you leave. And that's important to keep in mind. And so, are you working together? Are you able to work together with good teamwork communication? The other area is the environment. What's the environment around like? And what's your mission, your vision, your core principles or values, which all that adds up to the purpose, right? Your purpose. Then how do you bring your identity there so that that environment is conducive to being a place where there's sustainable growth, sustainable retention, sustainable development, sustainable evolution. And when you walk around, are there signs of success? Do people compliment one another genuinely, congruently? Or is it one of those where that doesn't occur? And these are all little things. However, it's the little things like this that create the compound effect or add up the compound effect. And so you've listened to some of my podcasts, and you know that one way I reward myself is by just telling myself good as I continue to do my priority task, whatever those items are in that task. So I reward myself with the word good. Or I might reward myself with, after I get to a certain point, just some stretching, right? So I do some stretching throughout the day. I'm a competitive sports player, athlete, so naturally my muscles get a little tight, so I stretch, do different movements. And there's a lot of ways to create this environment. And so what is that atmosphere like? And that doesn't mean that people need to be quiet the whole time. It doesn't mean people need to be talkative the whole time. I mean, it's really depends, right? On exactly what's being achieved, accomplished, performed. The key is to ask yourself, are you congruent? Are you genuine? Right? So that environment is important. And then the culture. You know, what's the culture like? When you bring in people to an existing organization, business, workplace, there's already a culture established. How do you integrate them into that culture, implement them into that culture? How do you bring their gifts, talents, and skills, wisdom, knowledge, experience, practical breakthroughs in learning, and bring their identity to that your culture that you've already established? Well, see, now that one or more people are being added, it's a good idea to have that kind of positive leadership environment culture workshop. It would be a good idea because you've got different people there and they've not had the opportunity or have not been given the to use their voice, to bring their identity, to talk about and understand how some things work, and more than understanding, but being able to to add, to create that compound effect, right? There's probably a specific need that this person was hired for, uh, or they're providing a service, or you're partnering with them and there's a specific need. However, in that specific need, again, it's not a transaction, or it shouldn't be. It should be that you talk with one another, you're able to share some with one another. And then as you do that, then we're able to actually bring this into the culture and be able to benefit from it. The beneficial, congruent, positive leadership environment and culture. So that's what I have for you today. Now, many organizations, they've already established this, and a lot of times they don't pursue doing another workshop. And it's challenging because you've got different people there now. Yes, there's existing people, and yes, there's a structure there, right? There's structure, there's organization. However, now you've got different people come in with different backgrounds, experiences, wisdom, knowledge, skills, practical breakthroughs in learning. They bring their identity, right? And that's actually beneficial. It really is beneficial. And that way, they're able to contribute to good teamwork communication. They're able to contribute to the positive leadership environment and culture. And what does that do? What that does is that creates the compound effect, or you experience the compound effect. Sustainable growth, sustainable retention, sustainable development, and sustainable evolution. So your bonus, your assignment is in your workplace, place of business, organization, on your teams, whether that's in your job is your work, is your business, whether it's you play sports and you're on a team, whether that's youth sports, semi-pro, professional, recreational. Where does this fit in? How does this benefit your leadership, your positive leadership environment and culture? If you like my podcast, like it. Comment in the like section. For those of you interested in my private, personal, professional, confidential services and programs, visit my website, rajgavurla.com. Fill out the brief form, and we will contact you as soon as we can. Enjoy your day.